Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Working with a guy who has Oakley sunglasses and a Rolex watch, each purchased in Times Square.
I do have a legitimate pair of Oakleys. Rolex, on the other hand, yeah, the statute is long out on that. I purchased that about 1992 or so. I don't think it works anymore.
Didn't work a week after you bought it.
No, it lasted a week. It was probably about a month and a half, and then it said, you know what? This Rolex has had enough.
Unbelievable. Unreal.
Well, nothing beat the Hard Rock Cafe shirt. I think I was looking for a blue one, and I bought guy had a red one. I said, hey, do you have blue by any chance? Oh, give me 5 minutes. I'm like, no. I'll take the red.
Oh, man. Do you own anything?
That was many years ago at this point.
Do you own anything that's not red?
Yeah, I own stuff that isn't red. Plenty of Penn State stuff.
When do you wear it?
Trying to think. Did I wear Penn State yesterday or a gray shirt?
Oh, God.
I don't wear red. Do not wear red to game day. I know better.
Really?
I try not to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the draft is over. And now the free agency part begins, which becomes a wild thing in the NBA. Did you see who the Oklahoma City Thunder drafted in round 2?
I did not.
Do you follow sports?
Not round 2 of the NBA draft as extensive as I should.
Follow sport. They picked up. This is why I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, Sam Presti, he's got a real eye for this. He's got a real eye for this.
Yep.
Okay? And this is, he picked Brooks Barnhizer
from Northwestern. Signed a guy from Iowa too, Peyton Sanford.
But look, personally, I've talked to Peyton a lot. You know, it's one thing when you leave the Iowa facility, you have to walk right through their locker room area. And usually he's been outside. And I've stopped and chatted to him several times. To say I like him, yeah, I really do. I mean, it's a great kid. Barnhizer, though, he just plays hard. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be on that roster for Oklahoma City. I think he's going to play some. He rebounds. He shoots well. He's a complete effort guy. I think I lost a couple of teeth this year trying to play. I mean, and it happens in practice too. That's one of those underrated, nobody's going to talk about picks. They're like, wow. Then the interesting one that didn't get picked, and I didn't think he was going to get picked, is Vlad Golden of Michigan. He did not get picked.
Yeah.
So that is that's always interesting. It's only a 2-round draft. I remember the first player that was drafted when I started announcing, believe it or not, was a 10th round pick. That's when the draft was 10 rounds. It was Dickie Moore. He was drafted by the Clippers. And then they reduced it to 3, and now it's 2. And it's been 2 for, geez.
It's been a while. Yeah.
A long time now.
Yeah.
It's been 2.
Back when Dennis Rodman was drafted, I think it was. Yeah, it's been many years.
Yeah. That's why the significance of Yannick Niederhauser being a first-round pick Man, you are sitting. I mean, he is sitting there with a 3-year guaranteed contract out of it, option for a 4th. And remember what I've said many times about both the NFL draft and the NBA draft. The NFL draft, if you're a top 3-round pick, or in the NBA draft, if you're a first-round pick, you have to play your way out of the league. You're going to get chance after chance after chance. If you are a 4 through 7 or a free agent, or in the NBA, a second-round pick and a free agent, you have to play your way into the league. You have to make yourself relevant over and over and over again to keep yourself in the league. Now, are there second-round picks that are exceptions to the rule? Yeah, Nikola Jokic appears to be one. Draymond Green appears to be another one. But
Brunson, Ginobili.
Yeah.
Rodman, obviously.
I mean, there are guys. No, Rodman was a first-round pick.
I want to say he was second.
Dennis Rodman?
Rodman, I think he was a second-round pick.
Okay.
I think so. I think he was he? I'm trying to think. I have to look that up. I want to say he was.
But the bottom line is, I mean, that's where you are with this.
Second round.
Second round pick. Okay. Because Pippen was a first round pick.
Yeah. The Sonics take him and then trade him?
I think so.
I think,
he was taken by Seattle.
Yeah.
So that's where that is. We're making the turn. Penn State football. I walked by the hill outside the Jordan Center. It is now lined. That means it's time to run it. That's where they are right now. They've done the morning workouts. They're going to run hills, and the bottom line is, I mean, we're what, 2.5, 3 weeks, 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away from Big Ten Media Days. They'll be in Las Vegas.
In Vegas this year, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed it didn't take you long to sign up for your room at the Bellagio.
Tell you, I don't understand it. They just lay chips down and say your usual table. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you're in decent shape, and then I did a basketball tournament, and then they said, Jason Lloyd. Says, God, he's a whale. I was like, I said, no, I think he's in decent shape. And they said, no, here at the tables, he's a whale. I'm like, whoa, way to go, man. All right, a little gambling slang. All right. They love you there.
I always get a kick out of any time something is in Las Vegas nowadays. And again, it took professional sports how long to get to Vegas, and now it feels like it's obviously the hot spot. But anytime something comes, you saw it with the Super Bowl, you saw it with WrestleMania. They always Dr. Caesar up. They put a championship title on him. They put a jersey on him.
Yeah.
I cannot take credit for doing any of that.
Oh,
it's not a case where you curse the Rocky statue and you put the opposing jersey on him, but it's always interesting to see Caesar pointing with a Chiefs jersey on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So that's where we are with that. Basketball, we talked about this. It's been a lot of basketball talk this week with Yannick being drafted in the first round by the Clippers, but also the addition of the 30-second game.
Yeah.
That's not going to be this season, but it'll be starting next season. But there's more to it than that. Remember, let's go back months. Again, when we do this show, we try to give people background in advance so that when something happens, the audience should not be surprised. Okay? So I did not expect the 30-second game. So let's start with that, because I've never talked about 32 games. Never. But I talked about that you'd be able to schedule 1 through 31 and don't have to worry about multiple team events, MTEs. All right? And I said, I think that will happen. Well, that actually did happen. So now you can schedule 1 through 32. You do not have to be in a multiple team event to get to 32. It used to be you could schedule 28 games and be in a MTE that had 3 games in it, like Charleston or Disney, and that gets you to 31. If you are in an MTE event like Daytona, like Penn State was in last year with 2 games, you're allowed to schedule 29. As I pointed out months ago, that I expected it that would be eliminated and it would go 1 through 31. Well, it was eliminated, but now you're allowed to go 1 through 32 starting next year. And if you want to be, and if you think it's easier to schedule in a multiple team event, that so be it, because it does give you 3 games. Penn State, for example, is in the Mohegan Sun tournament with Providence, but there are 2 other games. It's actually an MTE. There's 2 other games that Penn State will be hosting. They won't be at the Mohegan Sun. Did I ever tell you the story about the Mohegan Sun? Penn State's playing it. They played Kentucky, lost. It was Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd.
Oh, yeah.
It was the national championship team.
Yep. National title team,
yeah. So the next day, Penn State's playing South Florida. So I got my mom and my brother tickets to the game, right? And they show up. Hey, great to see you. I got to go in. I got to do the game. You know, and they're still out in the casino when I saw them. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go do the game. Terrific game. Penn State wins the game, I think, by 4. And South Florida, that was a team that made the NCAA tournament that year. They were really good. Stan Heath was their head coach. All right. It's a great win for Penn State. Like, wow, it was exciting, nail-biting. Came out, saw them in the casino. I said, hey. I said, what'd you think of that? I said, that was quite the game today. And my brother looks at me and he says, did you win? My mother and my brother were in the casino, and I guess we're doing decently, and never left. Never went into the arena to watch the game.
Oh, man. I'll never forget the first time I went to Valley Forge Casino. It was for a work seminar, and I'm trying to find, trying to see if there's anybody who has a dinner spot here. Well, why don't you hit the casino first? You get the casino first, and then gamble away your dinner money first before you ask that question.
And then I remember,
that was my first experience with a casino. Literally.
I think the first time I was ever in a casino, I was in college. It was Atlantic City. It was the Resorts International, which, if I recall, was the first casino in Atlantic City. And we decided, one of my roommates, his parents had a motel that they owned, operated in Wildwood. So it was like beginning of May. And at this point, we're on trimesters. So in other words, finals week was like the second week of May or something like that. So it was like the first weekend in May. And John Gallagher was his name. And John says to Scott Davis, Dave Bullard, and I, he says, let's, those are my roommates. Hey, let's go down to Wildwood. Great. We're like, okay. We'll go down there. I'd never been to Wildwood before. And I grew up in New England, so I wasn't going to the Jersey Shore. And I'm like, okay, great. Went down. It was beautiful, terrific. He says, hey, let's swing up to Atlantic City. I'm like going, okay, that's not really, as everybody knows, that's not really my scene.
No, I'm the same way.
The gambling casino is not really my scene. But so we go into Resorts International, and I think Merv Griffin was one of the owners, if I remember. And I go in there, and I'm just walking around, and all I'm doing is just walking and observing. I'm not even right. So I had a quarter. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just pop one in, and then that's and that'd be it for the day. So I go over, and this woman throws herself on the machine and looks at me and screams at me, and she says, "I'm just waiting for change." I said, "Okay, good luck."
I have seen,
and I still have that quarter.
I have seen. You'd be surprised. I have seen people do that at lottery machines on scratch-offs. Literally, where you're scratching 4 or 5, you don't win any. Somebody comes up behind you and they're pointing, saying, "Other machine, other machine. I'm gonna win." And that's it. Again, it's the unfortunate parts. Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, again, the unfortunate parts of gambling. Yeah, thankfully, I'm with you. I do not do it much, or I'd be more broke than I am. But
no.
But I have literally seen that happen at lottery machines where people are doing scratch-offs and they get into fights.
Right. Now, when Dick and I went to Santa Anita, did I put a couple dollars? I mean, I'm literally a couple dollars down, and have some fun with it. Yeah, but that was the extent of it. I mean, I put a couple of dollars down, and we were done. It's not my deal. But I'll never forget. He says, "Did you guys win?" Oh my goodness! It's like, okay.
Lost track of time. That's just lost track of time.
My brother looks at me and says, "Well, we were both doing kind of well, right?"
That's good.
And I said, "That's great."
At least did well.
Oh no! Then we fell back. Like, yeah, you fell back. Okay. I said, I looked at my brother and I said, "You see how nice this place is?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Do you think it got to look like this because the house loses?" Oh, goodness gracious. And I mean, the gambling on everything is just amazing.
Insane. Yeah, I see people. It's almost as if it's almost like the big. I've been lucky enough to go to a couple big sports card shows, and people, the money they drop down on cards. Here I am sitting there in the dollar box looking through it, and there's people just, my goodness,
I know,
$100 bill, and I'm like, holy.
And this is on what, baseball cards, football?
Oh
cards?
Yeah, on trading cards, graded cards,
goodness.
and it's insane. Yeah. I'm looking at it thinking, man, oh man. There, like I said, there I am in the dollar box counting 4 ones out, and they're dropping $1,800 bills down.
Well, what's the most expensive card you ever bought?
Most expensive card I ever bought. I know I bought a Jordan rookie sticker for $90 years ago. Obviously, that was a good investment. I'm trying to think of. I think I've only paid over $100 a couple times. I bought a Bo Jackson autograph once. I think that was $140. I think that may have been the most expensive card I bought. Was the Bo Jackson autograph. Okay. I bought a couple together where I paid over $100. Like I bought a Willie Mays, Roberto Clemente, and a Hank Aaron together. I think I paid $124. But yeah, I've never gone very high, extremely high on.
Have you ever sold one?
No. I usually collect my stuff. I may have sold it when I was a kid, but obviously it wasn't for big money back then. But no, I never really sold anything huge.
Okay. I know Jack goes to a lot of shows and does a lot of signings.
Yeah, they've gotten extremely popular. There's no question.
Yeah, I mean, he gets money for it. I mean, he's not down there for his health.
Oh no.
He's not down there. He's not down there because he's trying to cure writer's cramp. No,
Jack obviously is, and people around here know it is extremely gracious.
Oh,
there's absolutely not a shadow of a doubt about it.
That's one of the amazing things about being around him is that everywhere we go, I'll never forget, like, going down to Alabama. Penn State played there in 2010. We get to the hotel, and obviously the number of people that were in there, and this was a combination of Penn State fans and a lot of Alabama fans because they wanted to see Joe.
Yeah, in 2010. Yep.
2010. They wanted to see Joe. So, I mean, they knew where the Penn State hotel was.
Mm-hmm.
And the place was mobbed. The second person, and they didn't expect it.
Right.
When Jack walked in. Right? And he got mobbed by people. And so, he took pictures, he signed, took more pictures, he signed. I mean, and for everybody, he didn't blow anybody off. Right? And that's the way he's always been. I've never one time in the 26 years we worked together, I've never one time heard him say, geez, I don't have enough time or anything like that. I mean, he wouldn't say flat out no to anybody, but I've never even seen him say, well, I got to get upstairs. And he'll still stop. He'll go, I got to get upstairs, but he'll still stop and sign it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody. And one of my favorites, though, is that I think we're like 10, 11 years ago. So I think we're like in our 15th year or something like that. And we were doing the pregame show outside the Jordan Center. And during commercial breaks, people will come up and they've got cards, they've got helmets, they've got jerseys, the whole thing. Right? Jack signed. Every commercial break. This goes, I mean, for years.
Sure.
So now we're sitting there one day. I can't remember what the game was. And we look over and there's nobody over there. Jack looks at me and he says, well, I guess the run had to come to an end. He says, I'm a has-been. I looked over. I said, don't you think after 15 years you got everybody?
Yeah.
He looks at me. He says, I like how you think.
There you go. Yeah.
I said, after 15 years, don't you think you got everybody?
Absolutely. And these athletes nowadays are not stupid. And the same with obviously the fans. They know what brings the most value. They bring rookie cards, or as you said, jerseys, helmets, footballs. I've never once seen Jack deny anything. And as opposed to where we're in the world now, sports memorabilia has taken a major turn. You don't know if it's for the better or for the worse, because obviously Fanatics has taken a lot of it over. They control a lot of things now. And yeah, these athletes, like, they're not stupid. Joe Montana to sign his rookie card cost a heck of a lot more than to sign his fifth-year card. That's the way it is nowadays. Absolutely.
Well, I always find the minor league baseball experience interesting because people are out there getting all these guys to sign left and right, and all they're doing is rolling the dice that one of them makes.
Yeah, they want to make it. Exactly.
I mean, that's all they're doing is they're just rolling the dice.
Sure.
That person's going to make it. Like, okay. That's. I always find that they have no idea who's signing it. None.
No, there's a lot of times they get the autograph and they need somebody to identify it for them.
Right.
It's happened repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay. And I see that all the time. Now, what's interesting is, believe it or not, it's more difficult to do. And I'll tell you why. Because of all the protection.
Sure.
For the fans.
Absolutely.
It's for the fans.
Yeah.
All the foul balls, all the screening.
Yeah. You can't hand it over anymore as easily.
Yeah. There's no, I mean, you're face to face with somebody, but you have a screen between them, and there's no way to, like, hey, could you sign? Yeah. Here's the card, and like slip the card through the screen. Can't do it.
Can't do it. No. Nope.
All right. And that's every level.
That's where, obviously, I don't really hound autographs these days, but that was where, when I was a kid, the Reading Phillies games is where I got autographs all the time.
What's the best one you got?
I never got I did get Ruiz. That was towards the end of where I got autographs.
Okay.
Carlos Ruiz. In terms of at that time, was Ricky Jordan. Ricky Jordan was the big prospect. Everybody thought he was going to be obviously one of the big things, and it didn't pan out. But that him and Pat Combs, I think, signed. Ironically enough, the best ones probably would be when they played the Pittsfield Cubs. And I got some of the Cubs. I got Rafael Palmeiro.
Oh, wow.
Mark Grace and Greg Maddox. That was, I couldn't tell you where my Maddox one is, unfortunately. Palmeiro signed my glove, I still have. But that was probably the best team.
So you took the Greg Maddox card, you threw it out.
Yeah, threw Greg Maddox out. I figured he's not going to make it. He doesn't even throw a fastball. How's he going to make it? Wow. But yeah, that's where I used to get autographs as kids. I would get them at big league games too, but they're few and far between. Yeah, baseball-wise, I'm thinking that's probably the biggest ones I have. I actually do have Cal Ripken. Did get Cal Ripken a kid that when Camden Yards first opened. I think that's probably Frank Thomas and Cal Ripken would probably be the two biggest I have in terms of name. Ones I got at signings when I was a kid. Brooks Robinson was one of the nicest people I ever met in my life.
Johnny Holiday, who does Maryland games, and I think Johnny's going into I think his 47th season doing Maryland. He does a charity event every year, and Brooks Robinson is there every year, and Johnny can't say enough great things about Brooks Robinson.
He was amazing.
About just what a nice person he happens to be.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the nicest people, without a doubt. Another guy was Stan Musial. Obviously, he was extremely nice.
Yep.
Unfortunately, and obviously I grew up in a family, my uncle used to run card shows years ago. Some of the not-so-nice ones drove up the price of sports memorabilia, and part of it was not only them. I think it was also the fans and their demands. I think that was one thing. Sure. But you look at the three names to me, at least from my experience, that drove up the price of memorabilia what it is today. Mickey Mantle was one without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Joe DiMaggio was one without a doubt, and Willie Mays. I think the three of them, and look, they deserve it. You asked somebody to name the top 20 baseball players of all time, they're going to be in that conversation.
Sure.
So, but that was the three where my experience with them, even as a kid, was not pleasant. It really was. But I do remember the players that I remember the most that were the nicest. I remember Brooks Robinson, Stan Musial, Harmon Killebrew was another one. Was extremely nice.
Yeah.
Those three guys were definitely stick out to me.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about Harmon Killebrew.
Yeah, Killebrew was incredibly nice. Johnny Callison was another guy who was great.
You hear the Joe DiMaggio Penn State story?
No.
So, it was 1986, and Joe Paterno asked Joe DiMaggio to talk to the team. And DiMaggio went to a game here. He did go to a game. So Joe asked him to talk to the team. Now remember, at this time, Joe DiMaggio is, he's older, still distinguished, trim. Like, wow. All right. Okay. It looked like he was in great shape. But he was doing TV commercials. So he gets up to talk. And Mike Russo, remember Mike Russo's the nose guard for Penn State?
Yeah.
So he's sitting next to Trey Bauer. And he looks over at Bauer and he says, "Hey, check this out." He says, "It's Mr. Coffee." Because Joe DiMaggio was doing Mr. Coffee commercials at the time. And Bauer looks over at him. He goes, "What the heck are you talking about?" He goes, "It's Mr. Coffee up there." He says, "That's not Mr. Coffee." He says, "Sure it is." He says, "That's Joe DiMaggio." And Bruce was like, "That's Joe DiMaggio?" It's like, okay, a little different. God.
To a lesser extent, we were at a Sixers game. We were outside, and we saw two guys and just high-fiving everybody. And somebody made the remark, Hey, look, it's Griff for Married with Children. Little did we know it was Meadowlark Lemon. Sweet Lou Dunbar for the Harlem Globetrotters. At least it wasn't Joe DiMaggio. I did get that one wrong.
Well, he wasn't wrong.
Well, he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong.
He's Mr. Coffee.
He was Mr. Coffee. He was right about that. He was also the guy that had a 56-game hit streak and married Marilyn Monroe. But
well, that was the thing that was like Trey Bowers like, Trey's looking at him like, what are you, nuts? That's Joe DiMaggio.
I did not know that. Did not know he came here. I remember Hank.
Oh no, he came.
Yeah.
In fact, so we had put in a request for him to be on the pregame or halftime, and I was the one that was supposed to do it, and he politely declined. He says, I just don't do interviews. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
as long as he politely declines it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he understood the request.
Yeah.
And he politely declined. And I said, I'm perfectly fine with that. That's fine. I understand. I said, never hurts to ask. And he, was like, yeah.
Absolutely.
But we had asked. And I was the one that was supposed to do it. And I thought, this is going to be great. Right? And I was like, I said, it's probably a long shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a long shot.
I remember, I'm trying to think of how many years ago it was. It might have been the late 90s. I know Hank Aaron spoke up here.
Oh, Hank Aaron. No,
yep.
I interviewed
Hank
he
was
Aaron.
at Eisenhower. Yep.
No, I interviewed Hank Aaron.
Yep,
no,
Hank was here.
In fact, he threw out the first pitch of the Penn State baseball game.
Yeah, I remember he spoke here. I do remember that.
He threw out the first pitch Penn State baseball game at Old Beaver Field, which is now where the soccer practice fields are. Yep. Hank Aaron threw out the first pitch, then I interviewed him. He was here for one of the colloquy speeches.
Yeah, he spoke at Eisenhower. Yep, I do remember that. Yep, he spoke.
He was great.
Yep, Magic Johnson obviously was another one. Spoke here.
Yeah, he
got his
ticket.
Got his car ticket.
Got a ticket.
Never forget that.
It's just one of the lowest moments. Oh.
And I imagine the person that ticketed him did not know and feels embarrassed. That would be my guess, at least right now.
I'm sure you're
I'm sure. Like, I don't think he deliberately said, "Hey, I'm going to ticket Magic Johnson's car. Watch this."
No. I think they saw the car
exactly.
parked there.
Just doing his job.
That car shouldn't be parked there. Well, there's a reason it's parked there. It's Magic Johnson. He's the speaker. Jeez.
I'll never forget. I was there when he saw the ticket. His handler stared at it, grabbed it, and said, "We'll take care of this." Went in the door, and we never saw it again. I'm guessing they took care of it.
I would hope they tore the thing up.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would think they did. Yeah, Magic's one of the Magic. I would add Magic to the list of nicest athletes. He was absolutely great.
Yeah. Well, no, I met Magic. He did. What year was this? 1998. 1998, Penn State played Georgia Tech in the NIT quarterfinals, and Magic was the color analyst. So that's when I met Magic.
I was a student when I first time. I met him twice. First time I met him, and we were able to have media session with him, and he'd ask our names. Compliment our questions. Yeah, Magic was great.
See. Yeah, my interaction, I was like, this guy's great. Reggie Miller's the same way.
Never met Reggie. I've never met Reggie.
He speaks highly of you. Very outgoing.
He probably pushed me out of the way to knock a three down. He pushed everybody else out of the way in his prime.
Oh, jeez. Obviously bitter.
But it's great to see the relationship he does have with Spike Lee. That's the one thing. Obviously, Reggie Miller is not a popular guy amongst the New York Knicks fans, but absolutely great to see it there.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about Magic's personality.
Yeah.
He's an entrepreneur with, I think, better than 50 different startups.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's a part owner of the Commanders, part owner of the Dodgers, but he has employed a lot of people in his lifetime. When they played, Did you see? I only saw a couple of episodes of it. The HBO, I think it was on HBO.
Oh, the Magic and Larry.
No, the Showtime.
Oh, the
Lakers.
Showtime Lakers. I only saw the first episode. Yeah. I remember the Magic and Larry Johnson when it went to Larry Johnson. Good Lord, Larry Bird when it went to Broadway. That was spectacular. Jackie McMullen did an unbelievable job with that. But I did not see a lot of the Showtime Lakers.
No, I only saw
and I saw the actual Showtime, but not the reenactment of it.
And for example, Jerry West is absolutely improperly portrayed. Mean, throwing things.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah, no, he was never that way.
The Celtics, I hate him. He was frustrated not being the Celtics.
Yeah, as was Wilt.
Right?
And Baylor.
You can't lose that many times to one team and not be mad about it. But it was completely portrayed wrong. And we know the brilliance of Jerry West at every organization he's been with. Yeah. The Warriors were better as an organization.
Warriors and Clippers were both better.
Okay, the Clippers were better. The Grizzlies were better.
Yeah, another one. Yeah.
Okay, Jerry West.
Talk about a second-round pick. Took Marc Gasol. Right. Second round.
Jerry West was not just a great player, but was a great executive. Right? And everybody says, as nice a guy. I never met Jerry West.
Never met him either, unfortunately.
So, but what was, I think, properly portrayed in there was Magic Johnson, outgoing people person, and Kareem wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Okay?
No.
And so my understanding is through people that know them, they said that Kareem, I guess, went up to Magic. And this is, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Like, how are you doing all this stuff? He says, I can't get anything. And Magic looked at him. He says, no offense. He says, when you played, you've got to be able to, you've got to be able to talk to people one-on-one and interact with them. He says, because it'll get to the point they don't want to deal with you.
Yeah.
He says, and Magic understood that. Kareem didn't. Now, he knows Kareem has been more outgoing.
Yeah, at the end of his career, he was the captain. He got commercials that way in a lot of ways. Magic Johnson was a big part of that.
Right. But he finally was more outgoing about it, and now it's opened some doors for him. But he was very standoffish to people for a long time. Why I don't know. I have no idea.
That's
there's I would have to really ask somebody.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
why? But
when Kareem, I heard
it could be the time in which he grew up.
It may be. Yeah, it may be. He grew up obviously in an area too.
He grew up in New York. Yep. He grew up during the '60s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Magic was not a product of the '60s.
No.
Magic was a product of the '70s.
No.
Okay. So Kareem grew up in the '60s. So maybe he was more guarded. There was more butting of heads over race. I mean, and of course, when you're 7'2", you're a target for people, both as a player. Oh, you got to stop that guy. I hate that
Nobody
guy.
could do it.
Right.
Will Chamberlain needed help guarding him.
I mean, nobody could do that. I mean, Chamberlain actually blocked 2 of his skyhooks. Right? Like, wow, that's the nearly unblockable shot. Right. So he was always the guy that was number 1 on the scouting report, which means you didn't like it. You don't like him. You got to stop him. He goes every arena he goes into. People hate him. You know what I mean? He was all that. And, of course, then there was the race factor. So I wonder if that played a role in shaping how he felt about people. I don't want to deal with you. You people hate me. I hate you. Or you people hate me, and I don't want anything to do with you then. Yeah, I don't know. But it was something where Magic was always outgoing, smiling, the whole thing, and it kind of set him up for the rest of his life.
Yep.
It's interesting contrast. All right, so the new Pac-12. And congratulations, I understand you've been named the play-by-play voice of the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 network.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah. Texas State is going to be the newest member. So you need to have 8.
Not to be confused with the Texas State that was a necessary roughness. Not that Texas State, not the Fighting Armadillos.
You need to have 8 football playing schools to do this. The new Pac-12 will have 9 schools. It'll, of course, include Oregon State and Washington State. Boise State, Scott Sidwell, who was here at Penn State for many years, is now the athletic director at Colorado State. Colorado State joins. Fresno State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, and the non-football school Gonzaga. The Pac-12 thought it was important to get into Texas, so they went with Texas State. Also, the exit fees for any of the American Conference schools happen to be exorbitant, which probably played a role in any American Conference school saying, hey, how about, I don't think we should do that. The exit fee's too high. So here they are, still breathing as a conference. Nearly 3 years to the day, it'll be Monday. Monday will be 3 years that USC and UCLA announced that they were leaving to go to the Big Ten. That then started the spiral downhill. Now, let's be honest about this. They can portray this all they want. That is not a Power 5 conference. It's not.
Right.
Okay? What you have is 2 schools, Washington State, Oregon State, from a former Power 5, okay, joining forces with group of 5 schools, Mountain West, and, of course, Gonzaga from the West Coast Conference, and Texas State, which is from the Sun Belt. That's not a power conference. Now, they get a TV deal out of it. CBS is going to do their games. And they'll be the primary TV partner. They're not done with their rights yet. But, again, this is... my thought process on the Pac-12 is the same as the Big 12. They get an A from me for surviving.
Persistence, yeah.
For surviving.
Mm-hmm.
They have a C for membership. And in this case, they have a D for membership. I mean, you're telling me the Big 12 is better because they don't have Texas and Oklahoma?
No.
No. Okay? The Big 12 no longer has Texas. They no longer have Oklahoma. They no longer have Nebraska. Okay? They are not, and they no longer have Missouri. You're telling me they're better?
No.
Right?
Not a chance.
Right? They've added Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. Okay? They get an A for survival. They get a C for membership.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Pac-12, I mean, remember, the Big 12 was thought to be dead in the water. The Pac-12 thought to be dead in the water. To the credit of the people at Oregon State and Washington State, they were persistent in this. They put together a scheduling agreement for football with the Mountain West Conference with the option in the contract to merge. And the two sides could not come to a merger agreement. And so the Pac-12, the Pac-2, the Pac-2, they're going to have to rename this thing. They're going to call it the Pac-9. I don't know. Who knows? But they went on the offensive, those two schools, and they said, okay, fine. And they gobbled up the remaining Mountain West schools that were available and then went out and got Texas State and then got Gonzaga to join. This will be a good basketball conference. Utah State's very good in basketball. Gonzaga, of course, is outstanding. Oregon State, Washington State hang in there. They're all right. Colorado State's had some good years. San Diego State was in the Final Four 2 years ago. It's a good basketball conference. I mean, it's a good basketball conference. In fact, I think Gonzaga moved up in weight playing in this conference as opposed to the West Coast Conference, where really it was every year it's like St. Mary's and maybe San Francisco. Now, remember, BYU had been a part of it, so it was like, oh, okay, and BYU was better than San Francisco at the time. But the West Coast Conference, the strength, I mean, why did Gonzaga play Murderer's Row in its non-conference schedule? Because they knew they had to.
Yeah, they had to do it. Absolutely.
I mean, they knew they had to. There were no heavyweights, because St. Mary's is sort of a heavyweight.
Yeah, they're good, but they're not. They're really we're not talking
good.
Duke.
They're good, but you're like,
yeah.
But, I never pick them to win a round of the tournament. I never do. Because I can't stand their style of play. Look, well, I give Randy Bennett credit.
Yeah.
This is how we win. And so they do that. I'll give anybody that credit for that anytime.
Sure.
That doesn't mean as a fan I have to like watching it.
Doesn't mean you have to, yeah.
Right? Okay. This is not my cup of tea. So, can the Pac, whatever they're called, be considered on the basketball side a Power 6 school? Big 12, ACC, Big 10, SEC, Big East. Does it get them there? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. Yep.
Right?
I don't think so either.
But I think it's safe to say that now they would be, in football, a group of 6. You've got the group of 5. They're now a group of 6. That's where they are. They can talk about we're a power. You're not. Okay? You are the American. Remember, the American always like, hey, we're a Power 6 school. Now, I give Mike Oresco a lot of credit. He was the commissioner at the time, and he was trying to promote his conference. I have no qualms about anybody trying to promote their product. That's their job, all right? But everybody knew they weren't a Power 6 conference, or a Power 5 conference. Whether he would Power 6, but look. The bottom line is, in the new college football playoff structure, this group of teams would be fighting it out to get that single bid that Boise State received last year, because they'll be in the G6.
Yep.
I mean, they'll be in the G6. That's where they are. Look, they are, I would say, the equivalent of the American. And what's the American? They're group of 5.
Group 5, yeah.
Okay. They're really on par with the American. I think they're on par. You can just, I think it's above the MAC. Okay. And I think Northern Illinois is leaving the MAC to go to the Mountain West to replace in this musical chairs of like Sacramento State, people like that. But that's where that is. Again, but in basketball, it's a good conference. In basketball, that's a good conference. The current makeup of teams in the conference would have combined as a conference to have the 4th highest net last year. Now, that having Gonzaga there helps push your number up, right? And by the way, the Pac whatever number, we'll call them the Pac 9. Okay, so the Pac-9 would have been 4th. They actually would have been higher last year than both the Big East and the ACC. So I give the Big 12 an A for survival and a C for membership. I give the Pac-9 an A for survival. In fact, I'll give them both A pluses. There's supposed to be A plus for survival for the Big 12, C for membership, A plus for survival, Pac-9, D for membership, right? And the ACC gets a D for expansion. You can't tell me in a million years Cal and Stanford helped them. You cannot in any way, shape, or form tell me Cal and Stanford helped them.
Not at all.
And I can't feel like Cal and Stanford are helped by doing this. I think they'd been better off staying
back. Oh, sure.
With this group here.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they would have been better off staying with that group there.
Absolutely.
And they're not getting a lot of money.
No.
People don't realize Cal and Stanford are only getting like $11 million a year. Yep. They're getting one-third compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, the Clemson's, Florida State's, whatever, they're getting about $33 to $36 million from TV. Cal and Stanford are getting 11 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Oregon and Washington joined the Big Ten. They're getting half. And they're getting $30 to $35 million.
Exactly. Easily. Yeah.
So, the 8 schools that were on board before the Texas State invitation signed a grant of rights last year, which runs through June of 2031. I always love all of the people that, when all this craziness was going on, the grant of rights, you can break that. Like, and you and I kept sitting here going, look, saying,
you can't.
You can't.
No.
I mean, can you buy your way out for $500 million? Yeah,
oh, sure you can.
Right, you can buy your way out.
But you're not going to find a loophole in 5 or 6 pages.
Like people act as if you can break these contracts. It's no big deal. Oh yeah, it should be just a matter of a couple of weeks. Couple of weeks? It's 5 to 8 pages.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, where's the magic word that tells you you're out? If you can't find it in 5 to 8 pages, it is not there.
Yeah.
Okay, well. Florida State and Clemson are still playing in the ACC. And the point I kept making the entire time to people to let them understand, if the grant of rights was so easy to break, why did Texas and Oklahoma
take as long as they did to get in the SEC?
Hey?
Yeah.
They finally bought their way out in the last year of it.
Yeah, knowing you're easily making $50 million.
Right, at $50 million
you're easily going to make that back. Yeah.
Right, but that's, okay?
Yeah.
$50 million each.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it was the last year of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Remember, it was 2021.
Yeah.
2021, where they shocked everybody. Oh, my God, can you believe this? Texas and Oklahoma's going to the SEC. And in 2021, as I pointed out to people, where did they play? The Big 12. 2022, football, basketball. No, they played the Big 12. 2023, football, basketball. Where'd they play? Big 12. I thought they were SEC members. They finally got to the last year, $50 million apiece, amicable. Okay, both sides agreed. And they finally got to the SEC last year. And you've got people out there actually opining that you can get out of the grant of rights. You don't think, let's take Oklahoma aside, you don't think the University of Texas, with all that oil money, doesn't have a legal team that they can hire in Houston, Dallas, or wherever. That's a group of killers.
Sure.
Right? We'll take care. I read it. We really can't take care of this. I mean, what do you think? Hey, I mean, they didn't go over to and say, "Hey, look, how about we budget out $5,000, go over to Dewey Cheatham and have them take a look at it?" No. We're talking about We're talking $5,000 an hour might not be enough for the lawyers they hired to look into it. They looked at it right away and said, "Gentlemen, I have good news and bad news.
Yeah.
The good news is you'll eventually be able to join the SEC. The bad news is it's not going to happen right now."
Yeah.
And you have people, Florida State and Clemson, it's just a matter of weeks. Matter of weeks? What are you talking about, matter of weeks?
No.
Golly. Oh, that is just, by the way, you know what the new Mountain West is? Here's the new Mountain West. Okay, Air Force, old member. Hawaii, Nevada, which is coming here, August 30th.
Yeah.
New Mexico, San Jose State, UNLV, UTEP, Wyoming. Okay, now who joins? Northern Illinois, football only. Grand Canyon for every sport except football.
Okay.
And UC Davis for every sport except football. So I have 9 football playing members. Okay. I don't understand why UNLV didn't join. I think that's going to be one they regret. Going to the Pac, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they end up going over and they end up being the Pac-10 again. Okay, great. All right. Another week in the books. Next week's the 4th of July. For you, it's normally a 10-day celebration.
Well, it's the halfway point of summer for the most part.
Yeah. Last night there was a really bad call at home plate on a ball strike call that would have ended the inning, and I think the Spikes would have won. And I said in the broadcast, I said, it's June 26th. We're now in the second half on our way to Christmas. I said, Christmas came early for the Williamsport team tonight. That's you counting down to Christmas.
There you go.
That's why you wear so much red.
There it is. Yeah. Holiday spirit. Less than 6 months out.
Yeah. There you go. Have a great weekend, my friend.
You as well. Absolutely.
Enjoy. What's your big?
Nothing this weekend. No, nothing this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, still have a great weekend anyway. Relax.
Absolutely.
All right.